Beginning.
Well, they know that blown out ankles, blown out.
Okay.
Yeah, last time, so.
But they. Yeah.
That should be.
All right, we have a quorum, so let's go ahead and get started. Just before we get started, the majority of this meeting is going to be talking about bylaws because there's going to be kind of a change in the process after we worked with county council to go through this process and the meeting should look and all that sort of thing. But first off, I'm Jeff Colvin, the Chief Probation Officer. Most of you I know, some of you don't. So let's go around the room real quick. Linda, you want to start out?
Probation administration.
Okay, got the right meeting?
I've been waiting just for
I don't have my glasses on, I can't see you.
No.
I'm Brendan Brown, I'm my analyst in probation.
I have Georgia here now.
Megan Brooks, I'm a correctional counselor at Sheriff's Office.
I'm Molly Bachlobo, analyst with the Sheriff's Office.
Mike Walsh, Jail Commander, Sheriff's Office.
Paul Litchfield, supervisor probation.
Steve Sinclair, Adult Program Manager, Probation.
Jeremy Vance, Probation. Jesse Wilson, District Attorney.
Michelle Donovan, District Attorney.
Sarah, you want to go?
Sure, Sarah Hollyhead, CEO Fiscal Team.
Anyone else up on this
Hi,
Ryan,
I'm Tanya Clark. I'm the Court Operations Director.
Ryan Groover, Health and Human Services Director.
Griselda, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Alex Gamelgard, Chief of Police for Grass Valley and the Chief of Police member for the CCP.
Hey, Lucas Turner, HHSA Administration.
Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Rachel Vasquez, Court Services Analyst at the court.
Are you guys able to hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Griselda with Alliance for Workforce Development.
And Jennifer?
Jen McCormick, Lieutenant over at the jail.
Thank you. But now, people keep popping up. Chastity?
Hi, I'm Chastity. I'm also with Alliance for Workforce Development.
Thank you. All right, and so roll call for the quorum. You already took that down, right?
I did.
All right, so we have a quorum. Approval of CCP minutes from April. Did everyone have a chance to read those? Guessing that's a no.
The minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ever someone's ready, if someone wants to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Alex, I'll make the motion. I read them.
Second is motion.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I
All right.
abstain because I was not present.
All right, fair enough. All right, the next thing on the agenda is public comment. So I don't know if we have any public comment. Hearing none. Move on to the main purpose of the meeting. So bylaws. So we've operated without bylaws since I think the inception of the CCP, which I think we might be one of the few in the state that don't have bylaws from our research. And so we've gone back and forth on these. I sat down with county council at length regarding the bylaws. And so I sent out a draft of them for everyone to look at. There's a couple things that we might want to make some addendums in there. And so first off, I guess I'll go over this part of it. So in talking to other counties and my own experience, and I think Steve's experience in another county, is that since this is a statutorily mandated meeting and it's a public meeting, it has a format that's set up by government code and all that, that the meeting should have a different format than it does. And that format, and this is including talking to county council, should be that there are assigned members. There's the greater CCP that's outlined by statute, and then there's the executive membership that's outlined by statute. And those are the participants in the meeting. Those are the ones that bring up topics. Those are the ones that can add things to the agenda and discuss the agenda. The rest is on public comment, the same as like if you go to the Board of Supervisors. And so, you know, people can bring as many people as they want to the meeting, but the person that's providing the feedback and the information to the meeting would be that designee of the meeting. Absent, you know, subcommittees and stuff like that, or someone calling forward someone to have this discussion about an item that's on the agenda. And so some of the bylaws lay that out. Some, even Sac County tells people where they sit, like executive members sit at the main table. You know, people like getting into that. And it's kind of funny because Steve and I both, when we first started here, like in the counties that we came from, I think you said you sat in the back and someone said like, why are you sitting at the table? And it's like, well, I'm not part of the committee. I don't sit at the table. And that's how like a lot of other counties operate. And not saying that we need to do it that way, but according to the code section, we do have to run it like a formal meeting. And so that's why the bylaws kind of set some of this stuff out. But some of the things in here, we have some leeway. And so the main thing that we had discussed in the past is designees. So I did talk to county council about that part of it. And if you look at the code section, the only one that says, so 1230.1B specifically says the presiding judge of the Superior Court or designee. None of the rest of them say that. They say the person that's going to be a part of it. They don't have the word designee in there. So she said, she being Jamie Hoganson, she goes through like essentially the presiding judge can appoint that person as the designee. And for the other listed members that don't have the word or designee after their title, they would have to follow the same process for voting if they wanted to use a designee. And so essentially in our bylaws, looking at other ones, the ones that I sent out don't have this verbiage, and I thought it did, but it doesn't. Talk about specifically how you appoint a designee. And so like Sac County says, designees of the CCP full committee are not permitted except for the court and those members statutorily identified in 1203B2, which allow for designees. Designees must be identified in writing to the CCP chair and CCP staff. So somewhere in there, I think we need to put, even though that's what we kind of assumed, like based on the code section, modify it right now so that way we don't have to have another meeting about it, but put that designee thing. And so essentially, county council is saying it should be in writing. And I think the only thing we have to put in there is, should that be in writing like once a year? Should it be, a week before the meeting starts, or like what's kind of the process of that designee? Like, do you appoint that at the beginning of every year? Like when we do the budget or something, or do you do it at a different time? Does anyone have, and so I guess if it's an official meeting, like someone would make a motion on that and we would have discussion and then modify it or however we want to do it. So I guess the first part is, does anyone have any concern about like the formality of the meeting or kind of understand that purpose or why we would have it that way?
Are you saying that
Section
designee?
you referenced?
What was that?
Was this 1203 point something B? What was the section?
So that 1230 section is all about the CCP. So 1230.1 goes into kind of the purpose of the CCP, or 1229 is actually the authorization. 1230 goes into the purpose and membership and those sorts of things.
So Jeff, my question was, is the designee, and of course, this is important to the sheriff's office because the sheriff sends us.
Yeah.
So is currently the way it's written, is the designee the only one that's going to be allowed to speak on that?
Well, it's not, it's not going to be so like, you have the conch type of thing. So it's not like if you say, hey, I don't know, but Georgette knows or whatever. It's just formalizing it a little bit more. So like if I don't know something, I say, well, Steve probably knows, I get that information from him or whatever. But yeah, the designee will be the member of the committee.
So then does that also apply to voting?
Correct.
Okay. So I think we need to clean up that language that allows all of that for the designee.
Yeah. So, I see it as putting in that designee language. I just think it needs to be of how I'm notified. I would prefer it like once a year. So it's not like every week I'm getting, 5 minutes before the meeting, this is now my designee. I think we'll still be able to have a quorum that way. So whether it's one of the captains or the undersheriff or whoever it is, yeah. Or if you want to.
That makes sense. There's nothing to preclude if something comes up to send you information and switch over to that name, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I think the way that I would see it we have two attorneys in here, right? So I see it as if you make a designee, so like if you say Cammy, like if you come to the meeting, that's fine, but if you can't make it and you send her, then she's your official like second. So it's not like precluding you from voting, like if you end up coming or vice versa. Does that sound good? Yeah. Here.
I mean, there's a provision in the law that says that when the law is specific, as it is here, where they clearly understand that there can be designees, that it means when they leave it off, that
There
it's
should
not
be.
on purpose.
Okay. And that's what
So,
I mean, I'm sure most of you have, or some of you have dealt with county council, so you know, they act in an advisory role. So also at the end, it says, do you agree with me? Does that make sense of how I reasoned it? So it's not saying it's set in stone. I would say that every single one that I saw from other counties, and I didn't look at all 58, had a designee provision that included ones that did not have that statement. So. And I do know that's the other part of this. Not so much on the adult side, but on the juvenile side with JJCCs or juvenile justice coordinating councils and some of those things, there has been several lawsuits related to decisions the group made, and they're solely on this kind of stuff, bylaw stuff, not on like the content of what occurred in the meetings, but on the process issues of not being open, allowing someone else to speak more than the public, like someone that's not a statutorily designated person. How come they get to talk for 10 minutes and me as Joe Public doesn't get to talk for 10 minutes and those sorts of things. So.
So that's specific where they got in trouble on that. Was that because they cut someone off? Like that seems very.
No, I mean, it's a variety of things. I mean, I didn't dig into the lawsuits, but just from other chiefs saying it's coming based on public meeting rules and laws, those sorts of things. Anything from the group on Teams?
Yeah, I'll just say that I would appreciate the option of having a designee, and I would suggest that we take whatever path is least administratively burdensome and have the flexibility to be able to like email you that I'm not able to attend, but Phoebe, for example, is going to be my designee for the meeting versus like voting on it once a year or something like that, if that's allowable.
And do you think we should limit, I mean, that's the other thing, should we limit it to like, you said Phoebe, should we limit it to, so you have someone that's regularly involved in the meeting, like, you know, Phoebe's although I don't know if I mean, I guess it could be Phoebe. Phoebe, I think, is enumerated in the larger CCP, because I think it does say the head of the County Department of Mental Health. Although I guess you could have them as an executive member, as a designee, as well as a member of the general CCP.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could establish parameters on who's appropriate to be a designee and clarify that. I used Phoebe as the example because she's on my screen, but
yeah. Nothing against you, Phoebe.
But I also like this, maybe this is a question for after this, but I understand there's pending legislation that makes things a little more prescriptive around this. So
yeah, there's some that would add members, I believe. I don't know where it's at. I have a ledge meeting later today. I can answer that. All right, so I would like to try to get this finally wrapped up. So does someone want to make a motion with some sort of language? So the person would have to make the motion with the language of, and I mean, I can do that, I guess. I guess I can do that as the chair. And then someone can second it and we can have that discussion. So I'll make a motion that we add a subsection under membership, and both under general membership and under executive membership that says designees to the full CCP are not, let me try to word this. Designees to the full CCP must be identified in writing to the CCP chair and staff. Should we say at least 1 week prior to the meeting? All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. And then any discussion?
Yeah, Jeff,
So-
I have some
Yeah.
discussion on it. I understand the need to want to get this done, but I'm not so sure I'm comfortable voting in favor of it based on a verbal motion, because when I'm looking like Sac counties here, there's a lot of things to think about, whether it's, do all positions get, but the language that was just proposed in the motion would allow all members to have a designee. And I don't
Well,
know
yeah,
if I'm comfortable with that.
And so if that's the thing, I can go back to county council and have her reach out to her, usually she'll go on her listserv of county councils around the state and see if, because yes, she did note that the only one that says designee, and it's weird because some like Sac County say splits up code section and constitutional officers, but that was the only one that I could find that did that out of all the other ones that I read. So I don't know where that comes from. And I did ask Jamie and she wasn't sure as to why that would be called out separately. So there must be either some obscure government code section that has that, or they have some different interpretation of that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there is some background there, because the constitutional officer thing, sometimes we do see that. I know in Sac County, they call it sheriff, district attorney, superintendent of schools. Might make sense. I'm thinking about like my own position. The statute reads a certain way, probably for a certain intent, I would assume. So a chief of police, for example, let's say, I mean, that's me right now. So can I send someone from my department? Can I send someone from some other chief of police's department? I think it starts getting a little bit slippery slope, particularly when the language as written in the code is very specific. And as was mentioned by county council, only references it in one place. So unless we have, I'm just not comfortable making a vote on something which I don't think is really in alignment with just the way I read the law, black and white.
All right.
So that's my only comment.
Yeah, like I said, the only one that does say designee is the sheriff's, or not the sheriff's department, the court. So.
Just to be clear, I'm not against designees. I'm just not comfortable. I'm not comfortable that that language is in compliance with the way the statute's written as proposed.
Yeah, and there's also a discussion of like, if it's designee, like for Tanya's case, like, is it my duty every year to like check with whoever the presiding judge is to make sure that, I mean, not saying that Tanya wouldn't let me know, but to make sure that's still the designee of the presiding judge at the time. You know what I mean? Like, is that a piece of this as well? All right, so we have the motion on the floor. I mean, I could pull it, I guess. Any other discussion? I mean, I think Carrie, you kind of alluded that you agree with that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I do. I think that when the law leaves something out, and then included some sections and then leave it out. Now there's the law's clear that they left it out on purpose. The legislature left it out on purpose.
Like only one person can have a designee, no one else can.
I think only one person on the executive committee can.
Yeah.
I think that also on the general
Membership.
There were other people who could.
Anyone else? All right, how about this? I'll pull the motion. I'll go back. And maybe next meeting, I'll have to see if Jamie can attend so we can have these discussions with her present. I know she has attended a few of them, but the other pieces of that, do we want to add and some of the other ones, it has miscellaneous stuff, like it talks about Brown Act, talks about when you can convene special meetings. Some of them contain that CCP members are required to participate in ethics training every 2 years. And I think that's just a piece of any public meeting thing. You're supposed to actually have that in there. So I'll ask her because I think that's for everyone that participates as a board member of a public meeting, but I'm not positive. And I think the main part is, the purpose piece, I saw, since we went through this work, I saw that some places besides the statutory purpose, they put in, we went through in our strategic planning process and made a mission statement. I have it here somewhere. Here it is. So we went through, we made a mission statement, guiding principles, and some goals. So I don't know if we want any of those included in that purpose section, or if we just want the statutory language in there. On the plus side of including it, I think it kind of points out the work that we've done and what we're trying to accomplish. On the negative side, I think then if there's another planning session, then we have to go through and change all of it. So what do folks think about that?
I think we keep the bylaws short and sweet, and make it so that it's something, a document that goes forward in time, that we don't have to keep editing them.
Yeah. All right, so the next step for the bylaws, instead of voting on them, since we pulled that, is I will go back, well, one other piece of discussion, I guess. And so most counties operate, this is how I was used to it before I came here, was there's the full meeting and there's the executive meeting. Some are combined in certain ways, some are separated out. Some are like every second one's a full one and every, other one is an executive. And so when you read the code section and how some people are referring to full membership. So full membership, in addition to the executive members, include the head of the County Department of Social Services, the head of the County Department of Mental Health, head of the Department of Employment, the head of Alcohol and Substance Abuse Programs, Office of Ed, representative from community-based organization, and an individual who represents the interest of victims. And for the code, you're supposed to appoint someone to each one of those spots, and they're supposed to be named as to who those folks are. So we'll need to, once these are in place, go through a process, and we can outline it, or it is outlined in here, I guess, vacancies and how we'll address that. So we'll need to make sure all those spots are full. And I know in our county, some of those are rolled up differently, like there's not a separate substance abuse and mental health division or agency or department. So we'll figure that out. But the other piece of that is once you meet, is do we want to separate those out? Do we want to keep it just the way it is and invite everyone to everyone, or kind of divide it up? Some do it where it's an hour meeting, a half an hour is the full meeting, the second half is the executive, and that's when the voting happens. And that's kind of how I thought, like have everyone here for the whole time for 1 hour and just kind of divide it up into two, because it seems like it'd be a smoother process. I think the ones that have full separate meetings are just larger counties. So
I love your idea.
anyone else, any feedback? So when we get to that point, we'll set the meetings that way. So. Okay, well then that's that. I'm gonna skip to number 7, strategic plan update. And so I'm gonna put Phoebe on the spot. I don't think You know, I was gonna do this. She's still there. And so one of the pieces of strategic planning was public education, because if folks remember when they did the surveys, when JSP did the surveys of the community and other stakeholders, a lot of people were like, what the heck is the CCP? And so we've done different things for community outreach. Some have been presenting to different organizations or different events and those sorts of things. So one thing that we're going to do is on, I believe it's September 10th. Is that correct? Maybe, at least the date.
I don't remember. Let me look.
All right. That's what I have in front of me. So
yeah, that's right.
A joint stepping up and CCP community meeting where there's kind of facilitated groups and having discussions and feedback from community and stakeholders. So I don't know if I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, if you want to talk about that for just a couple minutes.
Sure. Yeah. You know, back when we first started doing the stepping up framework, we held a handful of community meetings that were really well attended by a variety of stakeholders, lots of all of our organizations, but also a lot of community members and whatnot, direct service providers, nonprofits, et cetera. And then those sort of basically stopped during COVID and we hadn't restarted them. So the idea was to sort of do a broader public facing overview of all the various changes happening in the intersection space between criminal justice world and the sort of behavioral health treatment world, and you know, Care Court and SB 43 and CCP and CalAIM and a variety of things that are going on, mobile crisis, a lot has been going on. So to sort of contextualize all that work in that broader framework and to solicit some community input, or just stakeholder input, which could be all of us, into how things are going and what's working and not, et cetera. And so hopefully everyone here has seen an invite to that. If not, let us know. And then hoping people share that, like with your staff that you feel like need to know more about some of these things, or with clients, or if you have sort of stakeholder groups of parents or nonprofits that you work with that would be interested in the topic, it's a great meeting to invite folks to.
And as far as, I was gonna say, as far as like facilitating, because I mean, I reached out to Kevin O'Connell yesterday because he was gonna give me a list, and I don't think I couldn't find it anyways, but I think, aren't there gonna be like little breakout kind of groups, and is there anyone in this group that's facilitating some of those, or should know that we're facilitating some of those?
I can't remember who's facilitating what, but yes, I'm sure probably you or Carrie or somebody has got something.
Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah, join if you can. It'd be a good place to sort of see all the pieces together and think about how it all fits together into a broader array of strategies to sort of connect people into treatment more solidly and keep them out of jail, hopefully.
Thank you. One thing that I'm going to add on real quick, we did get the revenue projection. And so Angie is not here, so I'm going to read this out. So the change in revenue estimate from the state, the original estimate from the January budget was 3.6 million, and the updated estimate in the May revise is 3.4 million. So essentially a reduction of, it's not, I rounded it. So essentially it's like 180,000. If everything stays status quo, that puts us in a position to use 275,000 of our fund balance if every department fully expends their entire budgeted requests. So just keep that in mind as we start planning as we move forward. The 2 innovation fund contracts have been rolled over to fiscal year 24-25, which I think an email went out to everyone. We kind of discussed that to allow for implementation of programs, expending the funds, and data collection. And then we also need to determine, and this is usually probation, but I encourage anyone else to join us on this. Generally, a presentation of the CCP plan and budget goes to the board. Last year we went on 11/7. The options near that time frame right now are, I think there's two in October, 10/8, 10/22, and then 11/12 and 11/26. I think my preference maybe probably either be probably the 10/22. If anyone else has any issues with that or wants to participate in that process, they're more than welcome to. So I don't know if there's any comments on that. Everybody's jumping up. All right. So that's probably what it will be. I'll look. And the only reason I didn't say 11/12 because I think 11/11 is a holiday. And I'm assuming 11/26 around there is coming off the holidays. So usually not the best times to plan for those sorts of things. And again, a little bit off the agenda, and I don't know, I didn't plan for this, but we talked about the 2 innovation fund contracts, and I saw that Cinnamon was on here, so I don't know, Cinnamon, if you want to give an update about how things are going for you.
Hello, yes, I'm happy to do that. Unprepared, but I will wing it. So we did hire somebody that will oversee the program. Our curriculum is ready to go. We have our facilitator's guide and the books that are ready for participants. And so we are ready to have referrals come in and ready to begin the Zoom classes. And they will be for anybody who is from the community that is referred by law enforcement, anybody on probation, and as well as youth, women. Is that clear? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions or? And is there like a referral form or just email over or?
No, you can just email me if you have a referral, and you can just meet somebody from the community and say, well, this person could really use this wellness curriculum, and they can just be emailed to me, and I will put them in the class. So we do have a syllabus so that anybody here who's sitting here wants to see it, I'm happy to attach it anywhere for law enforcement to look at. But it's quality. It is really helping women learn how to be emotionally resilient, how to just be in a frame of mind where they are not feeling triggered. They're able to control their emotions and be in a hostile situation or just in a challenging situation, and just learn a different technique of how to manage that. And so it's very effective. We're seeing awesome changes in people's behaviors. And so we're very excited about it. And I'd love to send anybody the syllabus or everybody the syllabus.
Can you send that to Linda and we can distribute that out to the group?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, so the next piece, the data group, I know Brendan had emailed out and then he got jury duty and he was gone. But so essentially, I think you said you had 2 people respond to you.
Well, I set up a survey.
Yeah.
For an upcoming meeting this morning. I've had 3 responses so far, so.
Okay.
I anticipate the meetings that occur in the next couple weeks.
Okay. So I don't know if folks recall, the idea was potentially once that gets set up to have someone from each one of the executive, like, B for probation or Steve or someone, to meet on that data meeting to try to drive kind of the expectations of what the executive committee wants for that data group. And I think, again, the easiest approach is there were data pieces on the requests that were made for the budget. So maybe start there with those pieces and then expand from there, because I think the ultimate idea when we had the strategic plan, one of it was to have some sort of data report out every meeting, potentially a dashboard or something like that. Because one of the goal number one of the CCP will be data-driven in decision-making and evaluating outcomes. So looking at different data reports that could help the CCP in making decisions, and developing that format and having that as a standing agenda item on the CCP was a part of that strategic planning process. So helping the folks that are in that data group figure out what they need to be reporting, what the CCP wants to see, and have, develop a dashboard or whatever it is, whatever mechanism that is to report out to the larger group. So once that gets set, then we'll send it out to the executive committee so they know that they can log into that and help move that process along. Any questions on that? Nope. Right. A lot of questions. All right. So the other piece is we need to start developing a CCP plan for next year. And as some of you know, there's a document that we put together with some required elements that we submit to, I believe, BSCC. And they put that up on their public facing website. And so I will send out last year's iteration of that to everyone, and then that can be the starting point for the CCP plan. And if anyone has any ideas or changes or anything like that, then they can respond to that and we can have that discussion. I don't think there's any huge changes because I think the last year or two we started incorporating things that we have done in the planning phases and the strategic plan and stuff like that. I do think that I'm not positive, but I do think that pending legislation has some stuff relative to the plan as well. And I just think that because there's a couple different pieces of legislation, both on adult and juvenile, that really go into these plans and making them more robust and more kind of accountable, I guess, to the outcomes of whatever the CCP's initiatives are. And so I think in that vein, when we look at the plan, there's either the opportunity to look at some of that legislation and just do those things automatically and start putting some of that stuff in the plan to kind of front load that with the idea that if this legislation doesn't pass this year, something like it will pass probably in the near future, because that seems to be what happens. So we'll be ahead of the curve a little bit. Or we can do a status quo and just wait until that's a mandate, So any discussion on that? Any initial preference? Like if you were to think like status quo or to kind of read the tea leaves a little bit.
Status quo.
Yeah.
I was just curious what kinds of things that you know of are likely.
I don't have them in front of me. Last meeting, we kind of listed them. I mean, it's mostly in your guys' shop. So it's mostly jail related stuff. I could send that out. I think it's in the last or the time before last minutes.
You're talking about when it would go to the board. Is there been any conversation? I know it's early yet, but I mean, obviously a lot of times that's gone with the presentation as well. Last year we did a presentation. Years before, I think we went quite a few years without a presentation to the board. Any concept that it moving forward, will be doing for a presentation this year?
Probably the only reason it didn't go to the presentation earlier, I mean, the years before that was because that was when we were doing the strategic planning process. And so we kind of said, well, we're kind of changing some things. Do you want to wait until after we did? And they said yes. So probably a presentation. I mean, it just depends. Sometimes it depends on timing if there's 10 other presentations lined up or something. You said status quo, sorry, go back.
I did.
Yeah, okay. Any
I
other?
mean, I think it's for good information that it's actually going to.
Yeah.
Keep the status quo.
Your folks are making coffee beans or something over there. So after this meeting, there's lattes in the public defender's break room. Okay, so I'll send out that planning document and I'll send out, I know people said status quo, but I'll send out that information of where it's at right now, just so people can see it and have that at their fingertips. So, all right, anything else?
Clarification. What's the timing again on the CCP plan? We need, like, be looking to.
I don't know. The plan, I think, has to be, they have to approve it before the end of the year, right? Yeah. I mean, and this is why it's come this way, I think, is because for at least a decade, not a single change, I think, was made to the plan.
Yeah.
And so it was basically board meeting, here's the same document that we created in 2010, 2011, you know, and then approve it and move on. And I think maybe the budget was attached or something. That was the only thing that was changed.
There's some commas added, period.
Yeah. And so that's why it's become a little bit different because we have been more dynamic the last couple of years in making changes as to what's actually occurring. So, I mean, that might be another piece. We might need to change that process and kind of that timeline of how we're doing things, because I think that's kind of gotten locked in based on a system that was not creating a plan that changed as things changed. So.
My understanding is the share under this to update a few things, so I just want to make sure I have enough time.
There's another piece of it too that I need to look into that I did, and I just totally forget what the outcome was. And so there was a thing of putting the plan in probation, because as the chair, I mean, as running the CCP, sorry, got $100,000 in planning funds. And the trigger for that was submitting the plan. Those have gone away in the budget. And so I believe some counties are taking that approach of, you don't give us the money, we're not giving you a plan. And so I'll ask around to see, like, is that kind of a prevailing approach to things? Or is that just, you know, a couple of one-off counties that are doing that, and how that works out? I'm assuming if that happens, they'll probably write that it's a mandate and it's not associated to the money anymore, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it is, I mean, obviously with it's the strategic plan plus that plan are different documents, but I mean, it's a good document to kind of guide what's going on. And we're talking about, you know, getting what the CCP does out there in the community and stuff like that. It just makes sense that we can.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm for it. I was just going to give people that information. Yeah, because if part of our strategic plan is providing information to the public, that's one document that's public facing both at the state and at the local level that people can access to get information about CCP. I think that's just because initially when realignment occurred, I believe that was kind of the carrot to get your plan done, was small counties, 100,000, medium, 150, large, 200. To do it, to get your money, you have to submit your plan. And now that that money's gone away, I think some counties are just like, then the carrot's gone, I'm not going to do it anymore. I think some are doing it because they believe the money will come back. And like I said, I don't know, it might just become another mandate that's not funded, or unfunded mandate, but I don't know. Any other questions, concerns about that? And I'll try to get that out tomorrow. So. All right, no questions, public comment? Hearing none. All right, anyone have anything else they want to share? Anything exciting that they're doing? Yeah.
I guess Molly and Megan introduced themselves, but just part of the reason why they're here is they're in the jail. They're stationed in the jail. And Molly's is our project manager for the California Justice Initiative. And Megan's position as correctional counselor is new for us. That's kind of unfolds the discharge planner, reentry planner, work scope, especially in light of the California Justice Initiative. So I'm super excited to have them on board and bring some capacity for our team to be able to push the California Justice Initiative forward for the jail. Our current target is like July, sometime between July and October of 2025 to go live with the California Justice Initiative. So we'll probably be slowly kind of rolling things out in advance of that, not being able to bill Medi-Cal for those services until we go live, but kind of figuring things out.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Colleen, questions? How's victim service? Yeah. No one has answered yet. Victim services, because I know that was brought up.
It was, and in all the finagling of the state budget, they backfilled a significant portion of that, so we at least got a stay of execution for another year.
Okay, so things are status quo as far as that goes.
Correct.
All right, well, that's good.
Yes.
All right, well, if nothing else, can I get a motion to close the meeting? Second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Nope, all right. Meeting adjourned, thank you.
Thank you. Still go left, it's so far ahead.
No, I still help them. We don't get paid.